Hey, it's Austin James. If you're like me, trying to live your best life while living with diabetes, you can relate to worrying if you're doing a good job managing your diabetes. I use the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor to get real-time glucose readings and see the impact of every meal and activity to make better decisions. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor can help me live life with diabetes on my own terms, and it gives me more time for the things I love, like being a dad and a musician. Now this is progress. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
John!
What?
Red 7!
I don't know what Red 7 means.
Hot route!
I don't. What is hot route?
Will you just go stand on the other side, please?
Down!
Come on.
Ready, down, set, hut, 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 hut!
Hit me! Booyah! That's what we call a sacked lunch. Nom, 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 nom.
It's time for the Soonerscoop.com postgame show presented by Eskridge Lexus in Oklahoma City. Eskridge Lexus is the official travel partner of Soonerscoop.com podcasts. Now, here's your road crew, Carey, Eddie, and Bob, wrapping up all the action and reaction from this week's game.
We are back. It is the Oklahoma Sooners post game brought to you by Eskridge Lexus, presented by Eskridge Lexus of Oklahoma City, where you can receive a $1,000 discount when mentioning that you are a scooper. Come by and test drive the new GX550. Give them a shout at 405-755-9000 or check them out on eskridgelexus.com. We'll be telling you more about them as we go along because you probably need to do some shopping right now. You probably have some blues to wash away after what you saw today inside the Cotton Bowl. It was not pretty. The Sooners fall 34-3 to the Texas Longhorns in a game that was probably, if you were... Look, the 49 nothing happened, but we're going back to the Blake era now in terms of offensive futility. It was, I believe George only got about 3 seconds into the instant reaction before he called the offense dog shit, which I think everyone probably appreciated. So welcome, boys.
You're welcome.
Sorry that I don't know if I want to congratulate. That's not really congratulations, but we'll see how the revenues, the monetization works out on that one. Welcome, boys. I'm sorry you had to cover that dog shit performance today by the Oklahoma Sooners.
It was just, it was awful. It was terrible.
I wanted to turn the television off.
Absolutely atrocious.
I wanted to jump out of the press box, Carey. I mean, it was...
well, the windows don't open, so you can't. Thank God.
It was like watching a train wreck, and you just knew it was coming every single time. I mean, It was like anytime we were talking about it in the car, Carey, on the way back to the hotel, that anytime that OU had a negative play, it could have been 1 yard, 5 yards, 10 yards, whatever it was, a negative play, it was over.
If this
drive was over.
It might as well have been. It might as well any penalty might as well have been intentional grounding from 20 yards back. There was no overcoming anything. Yeah.
If this team gets a penalty, just punt. What's the worst that could happen? They're not going to move the ball. You're only going to probably have a chance to turn it over. I just don't understand how this offense
Can I tell you, like, how many shades of past quarterback, I don't want to say failures, I was reminded of today, but Trevor Knight came to mind a lot. Certainly everything in the John Blake era came to mind a lot. But
when you talk about this team right now, Carey, and you talk about them offensively, 1998 is brought up a lot.
Yeah, I mean, and it should be.
I mean, here's the problem is like the quarterback comparisons, or like this guy's not playing well, or even Seth Littrell's scheme sucks or whatever. Like, it's all so bad that for me, it's hard to be like, oh, well, it's Michael Hawkins.
You're wasting the quarterbacks. You're wasting that. Doesn't matter. You have a 5-star. You wasted him. You have Michael Hawkins, who has all these abilities, and you wasted it. I mean, like, you've now wasted two. It's not on the quarter. I said this. I tweeted this out like on my own account because I didn't want to put it out on Scoop, but I said, you're trying to put a Band-Aid on a wound that needs major surgery. These quarterbacks and their performances do not matter. It's the offense. It's at the very base of what you're trying to do offensively or not doing offensively. The whole thing is shit.
What are they trying to do?
I don't know. I don't know.
And nobody knows what they're trying to do offensively.
They spent 2 weeks coming up with that shit that we saw today.
It's amazing.
Well, and what's crazy is like the first couple drives, I was like, oh, like that's different than what we've seen. And there was a couple
had
guys
every
open.
opportunity to grab some momentum in the first quarter, and I don't think it would have mattered in the end. I'm not trying to like say that they would have won the game or anything like that, but they had a chance. It's just another representation of this version of Oklahoma football not being able to kind of, I don't know, take advantage of opportunities.
Maybe Jackson Arnold was actually trying to help Seth Littrell by turning the ball over after the big turnovers, because he was just like, we're not going to do anything with this anyway because the offense sucks so bad. I'm just going to turn it over and take all the pressure off you, coach.
Well, I think at least Jackson, like, it's so funny because you went from one side where Jackson was maybe forcing things a little too much, and then now Hawkins, it's like if somebody's not wide open, he is not throwing the football.
No, I mean, the last play of the game, who gives a shit if somebody intercepts it? Just throw it to where somebody can catch it or make a play.
Yeah.
Who cares? The fourth down when you ran it out of bounds.
Yeah. It's like, what are you doing? Just throw it. And I have a hard time. I don't want to bash on the kid because he's a true freshman and it's a tough spot. But it's just like
you want to see people take a chance. The
development at that position is. We talk about development at a lot of positions. The development at the quarterback position has been piss poor this year.
Yeah, well, to me, it's not so much the development; it's the confidence. These guys have zero confidence the longer they play in this offense. I mean, you're talking about a guy in Michael Hawkins Jr. that dove twice into the end zone, gave up his body to try and score. Yet today he goes out there and seems scared to make a mistake, more so than he's willing to make a play. How did that happen?
It's such an indictment on this offense is that before that final drive where they got all the way down to the 5 or whatever, the 2022 offense with Davis Bevel and Braden Willis playing quarterback had more total yards than the offense did today.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, and I saw people talking about that on Twitter. Like you can live with the 49-0 because you know the circumstances. You have a functional quarterback, and you put that performance out there today. You had 2 functional quarterbacks. You had a guy sitting on the bench in Jackson Arnold. He's gotten beaten out because of the way he played, but he's more functional than Davis Bevel ever was. And
meanwhile,
that's the best you can come
just
up
went
with.
right down the field on Ole Miss. That's what's amazing is I watch all these teams in college football and it's like, how is OU's offense so bad? Like all these teams are able to move the ball up and down the field. And I told Eddie, imagine if OU just scored 16 points today. Just 14 points. How much better you might have felt maybe. Obviously, you'd not feel good about losing, but at least they scored. I mean, holy shit.
Well, George, and here's the thing, and this is kind of what we're talking about, wasting quarterbacks right now, is you asked the question to Brent Venables in the post-game press conference, what do you even hang your hat on with this offense? Where's your foundation? What are you building on? I think was kind of what you're trying to ask him, and listen to his answer. You could tell he was struggling to figure out exactly what this offense does hang its hat on.
It seems like offensively everything's just kind of difficult for you guys, and especially sustaining drives. Is there any single one thing that you guys feel like you can hang your hat on moving forward offensively right now?
Any one thing that we can hang our hat on? I mean, obviously we haven't been very good, this season, and we got to get better everywhere. And I like the leadership, I like the will of this team, the hunger. Again, we got to help guys when you got some guys that are inexperienced. We got to continue to help them, get them to again know what to do every play, be able to play in a competitive way against whoever we're lined up against. And I thought again we flashed. I thought again there's a lot of really good things that we saw in the first half. And again, just having the ability to sustain those things is what we missed today.
Well, and guys, it was even more frustrating when you watch those offenses go against each other because nobody was talking about this Quintravion Wisner going into this game, and you watched him play today, and you're like, That's the type of explosive player Oklahoma just doesn't have on offense. And Ryan Wingo, they don't have a guy like that. Even you saw some flashes from Jaden Blue. I know he's not been 100% healthy, but it's pretty clear that OU has been surpassed very quickly on the offensive side of the ball by Texas, who has a lot more explosive players that can do things with the ball in their hands.
Is it unfair or unpopular we have to point out as we continue shitting on this offense, because it is bad, they're down 5 wide receivers. Like, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah, and I do think that would help them quite a bit.
I don't think it would be a much better offense.
They'd score more.
I think Deion Burks is the only guy you can look at and say, that's some athleticism that this offense is missing, because Nick Anderson's a big, long receiver. I think we've all argued about how explosive Jalil Farouk really is as an athlete. Jaden Gibson is a big, tall guy.
Those guys would help them so much.
They would. I'm not saying they wouldn't. I'm just saying, who's evaluating this offensive roster right now? Because they're not bringing in explosive players.
That's the other thing, just looking out there today.
I mean, they're all hurt.
Yeah, but okay, how about not even wide receiver? Let's look at the other positions. They misevaluated guys on the offensive line. That's
completely fair.
Completely fair. Tight end position is a shit show.
Gunnar Helm ran circles around the entire tight end unit for Oklahoma today.
Running back is not.
He had 1 reception.
Gunnar Helm?
No, Bauer Sharp.
I was going to say
he had 2. He had 3. He ended up with 3 for 21.
3.
I think 2 of them came on the final drive. But the talent on the offensive side of the ball is just not very good.
Zion Kearney was the leading receiver today. 4 catches for 45 yards. Had a long of 15.
Yeah, he was good.
That was the longest pass catch of the day, was 15 yards.
Today.
Yeah, those were the 2 positives of the entire day.
Well, Eli Bowen, I thought, was one of the biggest positives.
That's what I said.
That's what. Okay. Yeah, Zion Kearney and Eli Bowen,
and then Luke Elzinga.
Yeah, he punted the shit out of it.
He's awesome.
But it's
good to have a good punter, because they'd be really screwed if they didn't.
But just going back to just the overall effort of that offense, or not even effort, just the operation of it,
it's not an effort thing. I think they're trying. It's just not good. They're not good at doing it.
And look, I would not dare play anything on this show from Seth Littrell, because he's just a broken record at this point. His entire post, I watched, you put it on the Sooners Group editorial. I had time to watch it and listen to it. It's the same stuff he was saying during the non-conference portion of the season.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to hear that shit.
And nobody, it just doesn't seem like, I don't know, it doesn't seem like they're doing anything different week in, week out.
Oh, I thought they tried a lot of different stuff today. I mean, they
threw a couple things in early, but then they reverted back to the old shit.
Their best play was just rolling out Michael Hawkins and letting him throw to an outlet receiver. At times they ran the ball early, but they didn't stay with it. Like you said, if they ever got a penalty on a drive, that drive was over.
Yeah. Having to pick up 11 yards at a time for this offense, or 10 plus, they're not going to be able to do it.
Picking up 5. There's like a 3rd and 4 tonight where it's like they can't even operate.
They get into 3rd and 3, and it's like, I don't think
what were they for 3rd down tonight?
4 for 15, I believe.
Yep, 4 for 15. That's what they ended up.
It's actually better than I thought it was.
Texas ended up 5 of 13.
Up a couple late. I mean, Hawkins picked one up on a 3rd and 16 with his legs.
And you had 2 fumbles today. You throw in the 2 fumbles did not help at all. I mean,
the 2 fumbles completely changed the narrative of the game.
It was 7 to
3 with
6 minutes left.
Yeah, I thought there was like 7 minutes left.
The second quarter was a nightmare. I mean, it was just an absolute nightmare.
Well, the last 8 minutes of the second quarter, I thought the biggest play of the game, Carey, they have them 3rd and 6 backed up in OU's end zone, and I look up and Makari Vickers is out there. I don't get that. And then he just got beat over the middle, and it was basically over after that.
And the next play he misses is run fit.
I didn't have a problem with that as much as I do Robert Spears Jennings running onto the field as they're snapping the ball and OU just not calling a timeout.
I have no idea why they can't get the calls in, and I think George has a pretty good theory on this.
I think that they are trying to be so perfect on defense because they know they have to be that they're trying to get the perfect call in every single time, and it's killing them. And I think Brent has had that issue for a large portion of his career where he's always trying to be so perfect on defense, but I feel like they feel that pressure now more than ever that Zach Alley's like, well, we have to get the perfect blitz call or whatever in because, I mean, Carey, did they say on the TV broadcast that Brent was telling guys that they needed to get like a pick six or something because that was the only way they were going to score late in the game?
Yes, that was a Laura Rutledge. She said that she had talked to Brent Venables just before he sent his defense back out on that drive. He was imploring them that they needed to get a turnover. They needed to get an interception. They needed to go score as a defense because that might be the only way they can get back in that game.
I mean, that's insane.
But if you're telling your defense that, you're not telling your offense that. I mean...
No, I know, but still, it's insane that they've reached that point where it's like that's the only way they're going to score today is if somebody gets a pick six. You're like that's crazy. And so I think it's forced the defense to because I see a lot of people frustrated with the defense and the tackling and busted plays. That's going to happen in college football, especially against a really good offense. Like that shit's going to happen, and the defense is trying so hard to be perfect because they know they have to be. Like
it's weighing on. I don't think there's any doubt.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go back to Michael Hawkins real quick and just his day because I know there's going to be a lot of people out there wondering why didn't they put Jackson Arnold in the game? You know, why didn't they try something different? It was obvious the offense. They weren't able to move the ball with him at quarterback. I would just say this: you spend 2 weeks coming up with a specific game plan for Michael Hawkins. I just think they were going to see that through, and Jackson probably couldn't have run a lot of the stuff that they had prepared for Michael Hawkins. Remember all the RPO stuff that got talked about when Jackson was still the quarterback. I mean, some of the misdirection stuff today was really, really hurt them because they were pretty good when they were deliberate, just running toward the line of scrimmage with Javonte Barnes, and they were picking up yards that way. And even Gavin Sawchuk, I thought, was a little bit more deliberate, but they just stopped handing the ball off and running inside. But Brent Venables was asked today just about the way that Texas defended Michael Hawkins, and here's what he had to say after the game.
I think it's probably a combination of everything. When they're playing, consistent run defense, I think they put the offense in a position where they're going to be one-dimensional and, and more predictable offensively. And again, sounds like, familiar territory for us, but again, we still had too many third and longs, and when you do that against a team that can rush the passer and they can play great in coverage, again, the second and the third level, the windows are tight, the timing is sped up, again, the 5-on-5 with the wrap stuff, the 6-on-5 at times, it gets there fast, so it's a combination of everything. They're sound, they're physical, again, tight coverage, and really good in the run defense.
And look, Michael Hawkins early, he was shaky. He was throwing off balance. He was rushing passes out. He was basically, it was kind of one of those things. He's like, well, I got to get out of here. Oh, I see that guy, and he would throw it, and his base would be all screwed up, and he'd be completely off target. But I thought he settled in there for a little bit. And there was a time when I thought, okay, he's starting to get this, and then it just continued to fall apart because that offensive line was not blocking particularly well, and he was just leaving the pocket. There was no chance of Michael Hawkins just staying in the pocket, surveying the field, looking downfield, trying to find an open man. That was, I thought, his biggest problem today was just impatience and really no pocket presence whatsoever. It was just, if he felt any pressure at all, he rolled out of the pocket.
The biggest indictment out of all this, I'm just looking at the play-by-play too. Their first two possessions started at the 45-yard line and their own 49-yard line.
Yeah,
and I want to say they didn't run the ball at all the first two series with running backs.
Those two possessions. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was all there for them. Like it was playing out. The way the game started was perfect for Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Like they should.
Viewers was shaky. I mean, they were getting to him.
Yeah. I mean, it played exactly to the script that they wanted it to, and they
didn't have the offense to take advantage of it.
13 yards.
A year ago, they had Dylan Gabriel and an offense and an offensive line that could take advantage of that. They didn't have that this year.
Yeah. They had nothing this year.
They have nothing. Zero.
They're one of the worst offenses in the country.
I think they are the worst in Power 4.
Power 4, yeah. I think the numbers would tell you that too.
Statistically, yeah, they're. I mean, I'm excited to see. I don't know if excited is the right word. I'm interested to see what the numbers are tomorrow when all these games are done.
It felt like just being down on the field too that the level of physicality that Texas's defensive line played with today. I felt like OU's offensive line just got their ass kicked.
That's where a lot of it starts. I just think they're not very talented up front. Like they just have been getting their ass kicked over and over again, and it's just that's the thing that I wrote in my story is every week I feel like this year we've been like, well, it's the offensive line, they're injured, they're banged up. Well, they played their best 5 today, and it wasn't good enough. And they're like, oh well, wide receivers their top 5 guys are out. It's been that way for weeks. No one stepped up. Oh well, the quarterback's the problem. Well, they tried that hasn't worked either. Like how about the scheme? They need to change up what they're doing formationally. They did that today. They just flat out suck ass across the board. And that's the problem.
Well, and guess what, Ty? When you play a team like Texas, everything's going to get exposed, and all the issues that we have been harping on, the tight ends not blocking, just basically receivers not being able to get open, offensive line getting pushed back. I mean, like we saw all that stuff today. It just
Here's the thing, guys, moving forward, because we got to start. I mean, we could sit here and talk about how bad this game was all day, but what I'm interested in, one, I don't think it can get fixed this season. I think you just have to try and scrape by. You try to get a couple more wins, get to a bowl game, and be done with the year. But I don't know what the answer is, because we can talk about hiring a new offensive coordinator and maybe that fixes the issue. Do you want to try, but you want to try and keep your recruiting class together, but like they're going to have to really attack the portal. Like they're going to have to get a bunch of dudes. Like I think that they might have to get a quarterback in the portal.
And you know what? I think they're going to have to get other people, whether it's Brent or Curtis Loeffner, whoever, somebody's going to have to get involved in evaluations, because there is a serious problem with the amount of explosive athletes OU has on their roster. Look, I understand Brent was he was trying to keep his head above water when he first took this job. He was just trying to get enough bodies to have, remember the term? I mean, I know you do, George, competitive depth. Like, they've got competitive depth now, but they don't have, on defense, they have difference makers. On offense, I'm not even sure they have competitive depth at every position.
They don't have any depth.
Yeah, they have
zero.
They have zero depth at the tight end position, at the offensive line position. But they have got to find people, whether it's more powerful, explosive guys on the offensive line. Same for the running back position. We'll see on Taylor Tatum. I mean, that whole thing was very strange today. And then he comes in and fumbles. And did he not come in at all until the second half?
Tatum?
Yeah.
Well, he fumbled in the second quarter.
Oh, it was the second quarter when he fumbled. Okay.
Yeah, late second.
Never mind.
I think that's the first drive though that he was in the game and he fumbled, or maybe the second drive.
But that being said, you need more. I mean, you need to revamp that entire receiver room with some guys that have some explosion. And you need the height, you need the tall guys, and all. Jaden Gibson and Nick Anderson. If he's probably not sticking around, but who knows? Andrell Anthony. I would think that he'd have to stay another year. Just with his injury situation, you would hope he'd stay at Oklahoma, but they've got to find just some dudes, a bunch of little Deion Burks. I mean, they've got to find some guy. We don't even know how good Deion Burks is. I mean, my God, we don't know how good
any of these guys are. That's the problem. It's like I can't sit there and tell you anybody is any good because it's so dysfunctional. I think the answer is ultimately just starting over offensively. Like I think that they have to just totally clean house, bring in new guys, blow it up. I don't know, because they can't fix it this year, which means people are going to have to lose their jobs at the end of the season. Like and I don't think the answer. I know a lot of people want them to fire Seth or Joe John in the middle of the season. I don't know what good that does other than make you feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
That they're just going to change it up. Like it doesn't help this year's team much at all. Like if anything, it's just going to make it worse because they're just going to confuse the hell out of them more.
It doesn't get any better, as the night goes along, because you see Tennessee struggle at home against Florida.
Tennessee might be bad.
They might not be any good at all. I mean, and you've beaten Auburn. We know they're not good. Can you beat South Carolina? Like, that's the question now. Like, if they can't beat South Carolina,
they're not making a bowl game.
They're not making a bowl game, and it's for sure that you have to make changes on your coaching staff.
Yeah, I would think so.
But like I said, and like you're saying, I do not think, for all the people demanding that Seth Littrell and Joe John Finley be fired tomorrow, I don't really think that's going to happen. I just don't see any way possible.
No, I don't either. They're not going to do it. I mean, the time to do it would have been last week if you were even thinking about doing it, right?
And it just out
of a bye week.
A bye week.
If you're gonna,
there's another bye week though, Eddie.
But if they do it 3 weeks left in the season, that'd be nuts too. They might have to though.
I mean, maybe you just make a switch at play caller or something. Let somebody else call the plays. But even that is like
gap. It feels like between the two sides of the ball is so drastic, and then on top of that, the gap between OU and Texas, it feels like couldn't have been any more obvious that it's quite large today.
And getting larger.
Those are two very different looking football teams. At least to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. By the way, I don't even want to try and segue into this. The pod is presented by Eskridge Lexus, the official travel partner of Sooner Scoop. They do unbelievable things for us to get us out on the road. The Auburn game where we were concerned about the flights being canceled. They got us a ride there back and always taking care of us. But they were right in the path of that absolutely massive hailstorm a couple weeks ago. I'm sure a lot of you guys are being bothered by roofers right now. But luckily, Eskridge has hail tents all over their new and pre-owned vehicles, so they didn't have any damage. I know some of you are probably going through insurance hell right now. Well, you don't have to wait weeks or months to get your vehicle fixed when you can just trade it in as is for one of their new or pre-owned Lexuses. You can also receive a $1,000 discount when mentioning that you're a scooper. So come by, check with Ed and the boys, test drive the new GX550, or maybe look at one of our mini RX 350s. I believe that's what you guys took to Auburn, the RX, and also the other great Lexus models. You want to get an IS like I have? I can't more highly recommend those. It's a kick-ass car. I love it. You can see all their new inventory at eskridgelexus.com or give them a call at 405-755-9000. That's 405-755-9000. Tell them you're a scooper, and you get $1,000 off your vehicle. So go check them out. All right. Defensively, we've talked a lot about it. Look, we watch it every week in amazement that they don't, their backs don't break more often than it does. But I think today we finally saw a glimpse of this defense being like, we can't get any help here. And it was probably with the, when they stripped the ball, and was it RSJ that stripped the ball?
Yeah.
That went into the end zone?
I believe it was Robert Spears Jennings, and then it was Danny that was nearest to the ball, I believe.
Right, and then Texas was able to recover it in the end zone and a touchdown. It was just like
jumps on it. I mean, that was kind of like
did Danny it looked like he hesitated on that.
I don't know if he necessarily hesitated. I think he was expecting somebody to maybe come in from the other side.
Yeah, I don't think he thought he was the closest to it, but I think if he could redo that over, he would be diving for that ball, just trying to knock it off of somebody so it would be a touchback.
Yeah, or just knock it out of the back of the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, that was the play right there, but it didn't happen. But it just seemed like, that second quarter took everything out of that defense, although they did come out and give up, essentially 6 points, but then a touchdown. But Brent Venables talked about, that end zone fumble and kind of how it had its effect on the game.
First half when the fumble recovery happens and then everything just seems to avalanche, Texas's way.
Yeah, well, again, it's you had some things that again were good in the first half. It's 14-3, and we go back-to-back fumbles. I gave up a touchdown. That was, and it's still, even at that point, it's 21-3. All right, not ideal. We're getting the ball back. You start the second half, down by 18. Again, we're going to have some things go our way, and again, at the end of the day, what I was most disappointed in was the defensive side of the ball. We're better than that. Give credit to Texas. Again, give all the credit to Texas, but we got to take responsibility. and we're capable of playing at a much more consistent, precise, physical way, and we weren't today when we needed to the most.
And see, George, I know we see this two different ways because you feel like it's ridiculous for him not to blame the offense in that situation when you're up, you're down 21-3, and you feel like you have no hope. It's not the defense's fault that they fell apart mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever. It should be on the offense. And I don't disagree with that, but I also think that that's where we are, man. Brent knows this offense sucks so bad that his defense has to win games. If they're going to win games, it's ridiculous to say this, but he knows it's on his defensive shoulders.
I think he knows that. I just worry sometimes with Brent that he's so worried about the defense, and this is like throughout his tenure, that he's blinded by like how bad the offense is and how bad it's hurting his program and his team. And this goes back to Jeff Lebby days. Like there was times where the offense, like statistically, obviously they were so much better than this shit show, but there was also times that like the way that they played offense didn't really help their defense in a lot of ways. And I don't know. And it just felt like they, looking back at it now, hindsight's 2020, obviously, but just hiring Littrell and Joe John, like, I just don't know I don't know. I don't want to get into all that, I guess.
Always talked about like the continuity. What is there is no continuity.
Right.
If the offense stinks, there's no continuity. If it was working, it would look genius because it's like, oh, these guys, they all get along, they're all part of this program, they'll be here, for a long time, and we'll just keep this thing rolling. But it sucked. And it's not, you have to say it's not working, and all the it's not nepotism, but everybody calls it that. I mean, and you can see why people are frustrated because if you're Oklahoma, you should be out there signing, attracting, paying the very best at their profession. I mean, that's ultimately what Bob did with Lincoln Riley. Now, the way that all worked out, we don't have to talk about that, but he went and tried to find one of the best offensive coordinators in the country, and he got him, and it worked.
And I think Brent's going to have to try and do that.
He has to go do that.
But the thing is, Brent did that with Lebby. I mean, they had to go out and pay Lebby a whole bunch of money to get him away from Ole Miss. So it's not like he's afraid to do that. It's just that there were guys in the program that he felt, and he made a mistake, that they could carry on what Lebby was doing. And I think it was because of the relationship that Seth had and the working relationship he had with Bill Bedenbaugh, and the fact that Joe John Finley knew that Lebby Art Briles system in and out, and they could merge it all together and make it work, and it hasn't worked. And, tell me you think that Brent knows that it's not working. Because I feel like you're saying he's blind to the fact that it's not working.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe blind's not the right word.
I kind of agree with George just in that, does he think it right now it's just a process? Or does he understand, or does he is he thinking that this thing just needs to continue to grow? They're having to play all these freshmen, or is it this is what it is and it's just an awful offense?
I think he knows. I think he knows it's so bad it could get him fired. That's what I think, or at least the people around him are telling him that.
Yeah, I don't. And again, I don't think that Brent's an idiot. He knows that it's a terrible offense right now. I just don't know if he knows how to fix it.
Then that's where you just have to make a change.
Yeah.
And I'm sure those discussions are ongoing, and internally he's leaning on people that he trusts, including
I think my
Bob
biggest
Stoops.
concern there too is just we know how topsy-turvy recruiting can be, how important the portal begins to be for you here in about a month and a half. You got to have a pretty good idea of where you want to go and have a really good plan about how you're going to execute it.
Well, and this is the other thing. People keep talking about, whether Brent is on the hot seat or fired or whatever. And I've said this my entire life, basically, covering this. It's when the donors have had enough, because they have as much control now as ever. They can just say, look, we're not supporting your NIL programs anymore.
Yeah.
They could go to him and say, if you don't change your offensive coordinator, we're not paying for all these players anymore. They have they have more power than it used to be. They could just go to Joe C and say, we're not building your new football facility. Now it's instantaneous. It's like, we're gonna stop funding your quarterback. We're gonna stop funding your defensive tackle because we don't want to keep throwing our money away for this offensive coordinator.
It's true. So where's the gauge on that of people? I mean, I know that people, there's not a single person, a big donor that I could think of that would be pleased with having to come down to Dallas to watch them get their ass kicked.
No.
Completely embarrassed.
That's the worst. That's the worst type of loss that you can have for the donors. That what we saw today.
It's insane to me. OU hasn't scored a touchdown in 2 of the last 3 years at the Cotton Bowl. Insane. They haven't scored a touchdown against Texas.
It's a fireable offense. And I don't mean like Brent, but like somebody has got to be fired.
Well, look, Sark was 1-2 coming into this today. Now Brent's 1-2 coming out of it today.
And I told Eddie, I said it walking out of the Cotton Bowl to Eddie, I said, boy, that's a tough one to swallow. And I think it might happen again next year. I just don't I think Texas is going to be really good again next year. And I have no idea what this thing's going to look like for Oklahoma.
From the building of a program standpoint, Steve Sarkisian's done a much better job than Brent has. I mean, is that fair?
I think it's
true. It's not fair. It's true.
It's true. And I do think that it's comparing. Well, I don't know. I do think that Texas has always had the talent. Like he didn't have to. Like I think what Brent had to take over was a little bit different than what Sark had to take over. But I think that Sark has done a very, very, very good job at Texas, man. Like he has that thing rolling in the right direction.
And the problem is Sark kind of has some swagger to him, whereas like a Mike Elko doesn't at Texas A&M. Plus Texas, they're not going to be outbid for anybody. Or they're not going to. They're not that they're outbidding people, but they're not going to be outfunded by anyone else. Like if you go to Texas,
Elko and Sarkisian like really kind of for the programs that they represent, I think they fit quite well.
Hey, how about Purdue scoring 49 points today? They just fired Graham Harrell like a week ago.
That's unbelievable.
And they scored 49 points, and Oklahoma can't even get
49 points.
They can't even get in the end zone. And how about Tawi Walker today? You see what Tawi Walker did today for Wisconsin?
Sent that to the war room, yeah.
He was Javonte Barnes' total rushing yards for the day, for the year in one day.
Although they probably would have had to cut those in half running behind OU's offensive line.
Is that another? Is that another like just add it to the evaluation thing?
Bad evaluation.
Put him on scholarship.
Bad evaluation. Sam Franklin's helped him a ton this year, hasn't he?
Not lying.
They just keep Hardy from running it out of the end zone on the kickoff. Or that wasn't Hardy. Who was that?
Devon Jordan.
That was Devon Jordan that did that, yeah.
Which was like, what the f*** are you doing?
Like, he caught that like 9 yards and deep in the end zone.
And then he hesitated, and then he did it anyway. It was like...
It's funny. From where I was standing, it looked like he was like 8 yards in the back of the end zone.
We're sitting in the press box. Bob can back me up on this. And I turned to him and I said, well, Devon Jordan's back there to return. And somebody said in the press box, oh, I'm sure like they're just going to have him fair catch it. And I was like, he's definitely running this out. If he has a chance, he's going to run this out and he's going to get 10 yards.
I respect it. He was trying to score. Trying to take it 107.
I would say Sam Franklin had a nice return or two today. I mean, he wasn't terrible.
Yeah, Franklin did.
Yeah.
I think after
But as a running back, no, he's not a difference maker.
How about Army? How many points did Army score today? Oh, you should run what they're doing.
Don't get the half dead people, on our case. All right.
Shit. Look at them just throwing the ball all over.
You're emulating bring back the bone guy. Like, don't take us back there. Like, you're gonna get us in trouble.
Army does throw the ball a little bit this year.
Yeah.
If OU came out in the triple option next week, I would have so much respect for Seth Littrell.
By the way, how awkward were those option plays that they were running today? It just seemed like they were when they would roll out, and Hawkins would have a pitch man with him. It was like he didn't know what to do. He was kind of like trying to read, but at the same time, he wasn't. He stopped running. It was like he was shuffling along. It was the weirdest looking development of an option play that I've ever seen.
It didn't look, to me, it just didn't look very comfortable for Hawkins.
No.
Almost like he learned it on the fly.
Truthfully.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff today. You're just like, man, what are you doing out there?
I mean, I guess I have to appreciate them for trying, right?
I mean, they had the diamond formation, and they lined up in it several times, but they always motioned out of it. They never actually used it to run the ball.
Yeah.
Did they bring Kevin Wilson back?
Would he leave Tulsa?
I mean,
maybe he'd get fed up with their NIL stuff eventually.
I mean, shit.
Kevin Wilson would be awesome.
If Kevin Wilson came back, Carey, I would demand that he still has a press conference.
Oh, he'd
bring back the offensive coordinator press conference midweek.
He'd do it.
Those were legendary.
Kevin wants to be a head coach, even if it's
he want to be a head coach here.
I don't know if he's built.
Can't hire the guy that just got fired at Tulsa or might get fired at Tulsa.
I don't know if he's built for a place like Oklahoma.
No, probably not.
He's more like ECU, I think. Or
I don't think that Brent's like on the hot seat this year. You just walk out of a day like today and you just look and it's like, man, I don't know. I don't know if he can be the guy. And it's easy to like question that right now.
It just creeps right back into your head.
Well, and it's just
here's the thing though, Eddie. Like if the offense didn't suck, if it's one really specific part of a team that is super important. Yeah. But
no, I know where
if there was a really good offensive coordinator here, Brent's running a great program. He's doing everything else that you need to be doing.
Yeah. I agree with that.
But Carey, he hired the guys that are doing this right now. And that's the part to me, it's like...
And now he's going to have to fire them to save his job.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just... That's the part that's concerning is like it's going to come down to can he make just the best hire possible? And I don't know, man. I don't know. We were thinking in the car, like who you going to go get? I mean, there's a lot of guys you could go get, but I mean, you're betting your career on them, whoever you hire. And I also don't know if that fixes everything. I really don't. You could go out and get the best coordinator in the country. I don't know if it just fixes everything for this offense. Like they're going to have to go out and get a lot of players in the portal, and they're going to have to hope some of these guys they're bringing in, like stay committed and actually sign, one, and then two can actually play next year.
Well, that's why it needs to be a big name. I mean, it has to be somebody that turns heads.
I think
it has to be somebody that every player on that team's like, oh, we could play for this guy.
Andy Ludwig, Utah. That's who I'd go after.
What about that Colton Nicky guy, Penn State?
I don't think he'd leave Penn State out in 1 year.
Wouldn't.
Yeah. Or Ben Arbuckle from Washington State. That's the other guy that I think would be really good.
He's really young, isn't he?
Yeah. From Alabama, though, I'm pretty sure.
We're going to have to start putting together some names.
I know.
Oh, yeah. I've got a hot board.
George has a short hot board ready
on my notes app.
It's a critical juncture though now because I think that you can officially say that the season to a certain extent is lost.
South Carolina, they lose to South Carolina, everybody has to start planning for the future.
Oh, 100%.
I think some already have to.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying offensively, it has to be torn down to the studs.
How about this one? Dan Mullen.
I think Dan Mullen would be great. But it doesn't sound like he wants to get a head coaching job this year, this cycle.
I have asked around, and he is out there actively pursuing head coaching openings. I don't think he's thinking about being an OC.
Yeah.
And you know what? Other than Dak Prescott, when have you been impressed by Dan Mullen as an offensive coordinator?
No, those that Florida team that OU beat in the Cotton Bowl that year, was one of the most high-powered offenses in the country. Kyle
was
Trask,
he running that offense? As the
I
head
think so.
coach?
I mean, I thought he was. I'm just thinking of big names, and I'm pretty sure Dan Mullen and Brent are buddies in some fashion. I just thought that might be a connection. And he can recruit.
Anything's better than what they're doing.
Yes, yeah.
Brian Johnson was the offensive coordinator.
Butt point.
Brian Johnson was the offensive coordinator for the Florida Gator football team in 2020. He's now the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, they stink.
Press Taylor is going to get fired at Jacksonville.
How about
bring both Taylors back? Zach Taylor might get fired.
Yeah, from the Bengals.
He might get fired by the Bengals. So you want to come home? He can live in the trails, call plays for OU.
I think Press is more of a possibility there.
We were talking in the press box today, too. I was like, they might have to go get a portal quarterback. And I was trying to think, I wonder who will be the top portal quarterback this year. And I was like, shit, it might be Jackson Arnold.
Yeah, no shit. Do we think that they entertain any thought about going back to Jackson over the next however many weeks?
That ship has sailed.
Well, I mean, the thing that we haven't said is, did Jackson tell them he didn't? Did Jackson, has he told them he doesn't want to go back in and play mop-up duty?
Yeah, I don't think that's happened. I don't know for a fact, though, that it hasn't.
I still don't know, like, of the two guys, which one would you rather bet your future on, too? Because, like, I've reached that point where it's like, well, if you could only keep one of them after this season, which one do you want?
I'm not going to overreact to Hawkins quite yet, just for the fact that, like, it's a little unfair. I think Texas is really damn good defensively.
Yeah, I do, too.
And I just don't know. I don't know. Like, we've seen some talent for sure from Hawkins. He's done some really nice things.
And I don't know, did they beat that into his head? Like, don't turn the ball over no matter what, don't turn the ball over? Or is he the guy that's like, I don't want to have a pick, so I'm going to throw it out of bounds on fourth down?
Yeah, I think it's definitely been told to him, because the way that Brent reacted about the Tennessee game and the 3 turnovers from Jackson.
Every time he talks about Jackson, he says turnovers 3 times.
And so I think it's been drilled into Hawkins' head, like, if someone's not wide open, do not throw it.
Just take care of the ball.
Yeah.
Defense will bail us out. And obviously you can't just keep going to the well like that.
You can't.
It's impossible.
You can't do that. Not in today's college football world. You cannot. You can win a lot of football games with a great offense. We saw that with Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley, and a bad defense. You cannot win a ton of football games with just a great defense and a bad offense. Like, you've got to be able to score.
By the way, let me throw a name out there, because I think we haven't actually apologized for the mistake. We misidentified Vanderbilt's Tim Beck as Urban Meyer's Tim Beck, which Tim Beck, that is the offensive coordinator for Vanderbilt, is actually that guy from Pittsburgh State, I think.
Yeah, we support the
Gorillas.
The Gorillas. I was trying to think of what they were.
Both my parents graduated from Pittsburgh State.
They were like a powerhouse in football.
Oh, yeah.
Well, bring them in.
Wouldn't that be, though, another kind of, that would kind of be an iffy hire? I mean, if it didn't work, that's the end of Brent.
Oh, I mean, I think George said it. If they end up having to hire an offense coordinator, that's Brent's job. It better work out, because it's unfortunate. Like, defensively, they're pretty damn good. They really are.
Yeah.
They're still good. I think Texas is really good offensively.
Yeah.
Sark's really good. You have to go hire somebody that is going to be able to get this thing moving and develop a quarterback and put a plan together that they can move the football. It's surreal to me how bad this has become offensively.
You traded defense for offense. You traded futility for one futility for the other.
Literally.
This offense is just as bad as OU's defense ever was under Mike Stoops.
Oh, yeah. Offensively? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. It's as bad as the 2017 defense.
Yeah, I think so, because even with some of those defenses, and we've rehashed this before, but even with some of those defenses, they would get off the field occasionally. you think it's a big win when this offense gets 2 first downs, like consecutively.
Yeah. And even then, you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're just like, okay, well, how are they going to screw this up?
But it's also
this drive
kind of
can't
exciting.
continue.
Like, who's going to actually make a play?
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing that's concerning is you had 9 penalties last game against Auburn. You had 7 this game. Like, penalties are getting
How many
worse.
false starts can you get? How many false starts can a team get?
Yeah.
They had 2 back-to-back snap attempts on a punt.
Yeah, on a punt, yeah.
That's just that's literally not paying attention,
and
right?
Because Elzinga is so good, he still got it to the 12-yard line or whatever.
I mean, that's literally just somebody not paying attention. It's undisciplined. Which, again, is something that I never thought was going to be a problem under Brent. And it is every week. They do something stupid. And then we were talking about this on the way out of the Cotton Bowl today, George. Calling a timeout before the guy ends up missing it, like right before halftime.
Yeah.
What a little mismanagement of games continues.
But they did that at Auburn too, right?
Yeah. Well, no, at
Or they got a
Auburn,
penalty. They got a penalty.
They did a penalty, but it also just like the misuse, or like, how about the first field goal that OU attempted? They're rushing the team on there because Britton didn't know if he wanted to go for it or kick the field goal, and so they're rushing out there. And they had plenty of time to still kick it.
Zach Schmidt got screwed.
He did. It should have been Zach Schmidt. I couldn't believe it wasn't him. And then, he misses the field goal, and then I couldn't believe he didn't call timeout before the Robert Spears Jennings thing. It's like, what are you doing? You just turned the ball over, and you're running guys out there, and you don't have it lined up. Like, just take a timeout.
And Robert was having to run in from like the 40. I bet he was in between like the 40 and the 45. Like, he was having to travel down the field.
Yeah, and then I think it was Weisner that just ran right by him because he wasn't in position. He didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And that was like a 43-yard run or something.
It's not good.
That was an ass beating. It was a brutal ass beating. That was, trying to think. 2022 was pretty unenjoyable just being there because it was like there's no offensive game plan. That was not going to be able to move anything. And then
you guys fell off. You guys covered that. There was no hope before that game. There was hope for this game that they could at least hang in there
around.
Yes, there was
and they did for a quarter, and then the bottom fell out.
Yeah,
the back-to-back fumbles and the touchdowns that came just completely changed the momentum of the game. And then once they got down to even 14-3,
it was over.
Even at 14-3, and they really could have just didn't Tatum fumble out of the 2-minute warning.
I can't remember, but one of those possessions didn't Texas. I mean, they missed the field goal.
Yeah.
At the end of the half.
Yeah.
It was almost 28-3.
Should have been.
Yeah.
Well, Vegas was right. They just kept going up and up and up. It couldn't go up enough.
Yeah.
I feel embarrassed. I didn't see it coming. I thought that this team would put together something offensively to at least make it a one-score game.
I mean, I picked OU to only lose by 3 in my game prediction. I was like, it's going to be a close game.
I nailed it.
They're going to hang in there.
I nailed one side of it. I had Texas scoring 34. I just had OU scoring 23, so I missed by 20. Missed by 20.
I think we all missed that. I mean, I don't think I'll pick them to win another game this year except for Maine.
I mean, I don't blame you.
There's no chance. I can't pick them this week. Can't pick them.
I will say South Carolina, they are their own worst enemy. You better get a bunch of turnovers on defense if they plan to
Carey,
win.
all they're going to need to do is score like 14 points and they'll win.
And their South Carolina's defense is pretty good.
Yeah.
So bad. So depressing. I mean, it's a bad football team on the offensive side. And I don't think like the defense just played tremendous today, but they played good enough.
Yeah.
It's like you said in the instant reaction, George. They played good enough. Bowman had a pretty rough day outside of the interception. It felt like.
I don't know. I mean, he got juked that one time pretty good, but
just those missed tackles. I mean, that was shocking. All the one-on-one stuff out on the edge.
Yeah,
my only
had
suggestion to
bunch of those
to those guys on defense is maybe just dial back the shit talking just a little bit, just because you're not going to win. You might play really well, but you're not going to win a lot of football games with this offense. So maybe don't.
I mean, it is what it is. I think that's part of the reason why they're pretty good is because they're pretty passionate. And I think it's just what you saw there in the, what was that, third quarter when they had the little brouhaha on the sidelines with Ewers. I think that was kind of the point in the game where it's just like the frustration boiled over.
Yeah, they'd had enough of that shit from the offense
out here, and
yeah,
our teammates can't do shit.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be an interesting week because if anybody's frustrated and has been frustrated, they're justified after what we saw today. That
100%.
Offense is terrible.
100%.
Absolutely terrible. And it'll be interesting to see, what Brent says this week about the quarterback situation. I mean, I would say this. I think it's likely he'll just come back in and say, yeah, Michael's our starter.
Yeah. I mean, has it been asked directly about play calling and about just everything in between? I mean, that it has to be talked about.
I mean, I'll ask it this week. I have to.
Just in terms of,
could you change play calling?
Yeah, or you give somebody else an opportunity to spark this offense. They may, it's like you said, they've gone at every plan B, plan C almost of changing game plan, changing scheme, trying different things. They changed the quarterback. They've changed different offensive line rotations, different running back rotations, wide receivers incomplete, tight ends just a bad unit.
I think the problem is we're still 3 weeks away from seeing guys at the receiver position that you want to see.
It's crazy to me also that OU hasn't had a 200-yard passer for the first 6 weeks of the season.
First time since 1998.
200 yards, and they played Temple, one of the worst teams in the country.
Yeah, I wanted to go back and look and see what
one of the worst
their
Power 4
offensive
teams in the
totals
country
were with their competition, what other people have done. That might be an interesting thing to talk about, George. I mean, like Houston. I mean, to only score what they did against Houston, I guarantee other teams have scored a lot of points against Houston.
Yeah.
And Temple. I mean, I know they scored 50.
Were all there.
Yeah.
They were all there for us.
With what?
Struggling against shitty teams on offense.
And just like the Auburn game, it was fool's gold. Fool's gold.
Well, it took a pick six from the defense.
That's the thing.
I mean, they scored 16 points against Houston.
Yeah. That's the thing I think back to when we're talking about like just Brent and everything else. It's like if Kip 6 doesn't happen, they're 3-3 right now. They haven't won an SEC game.
Hell, if Houston, if the fake muffed punt that didn't actually happen against Houston, they're like 2-4 right now.
It's concerning. It's very, very concerning.
Cincinnati scored 34 against Houston. TCU scored. No, they only scored 19. Iowa State scored 20.
Because TCU is bad at TCU.
TCU's bad.
Sonny Dykes.
UNLV scored 27 against
offense.
I wouldn't be against Sonny Dykes as the OC.
What do you think about that, Carey?
Yeah, experienced. Has worked with Bill. So you keep that offensive line intact. That recruiting class.
Well, I honestly think that wouldn't be a bad option. I wonder what his situation is going to be at TCU. I don't know. If
I also wouldn't be shocked if like some G5 school gave him a head coaching job.
Oh, if he wanted to jump just straight back in.
Yeah, like if GJ Kinney went and got a big head coaching job or something, and Texas State was like, "Hey, we'll hire somebody."
I don't even know if he's on the chopping block at TCU.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not a very good football team.
And again, you might have to just sacrifice Bill Bedenbaugh, but Sonny Dykes, Dana Holgerson, those are the guys you could hire that would keep him here if that's what you wanted.
I don't know. I mean, with that offensive line class that's coming in, that's the only thing that Bill has right now is that he has a good class. Now, you don't sign those guys. talking about the ultimate just shit show position they would be in.
Well, that's the next thing, like decommitments. If that starts happening, all bets are off.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something that you have to think about. Something I'm sure Josh is already thinking about.
All right. I don't know what else good we can do. I
don't think there is anything. It was just a miserable day.
Yeah.
On my favorite day. Damn it. That sucks.
On what
also,
day?
it sounds like talking to Sankey at halftime. I think we are in store for a lot of 2:30 kickoffs at this game moving forward.
Well, I hated it. I hated the 2:30.
I didn't like it either.
I hated it.
I'm a little bit worried about, this might become an ESPN or SEC Plus team moving forward.
Shit, I wouldn't even put him on that. Just put him on Sooner Scoop YouTube page. How about that?
That'd be fine.
That'd be awesome.
I don't think OU would like the comments that happen on our YouTube page while they're playing on it.
Well, I don't read their own Instagram comments or their own Twitter comments.
Well, they don't have comments on their YouTube page. I've noticed that.
Probably smart.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 100% smart. All right, that's going to do it. Man, Monday is going to be... Whew, I don't know how many players we'll get on Monday night. I'm going to say 4.
Just give them all of us. Just give them every single one. Give us every single one. Just be like, how bad is this?
And for every defensive player,
they're definitely going to hide offensive players from us.
Every defensive player that we talk to, we have to start every interview session with, "It's not your fault. We know."
Oh man! All right, let's wrap this thing up. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for the work today. I know it wasn't fun. I myself said I really wanted to turn my television off, but I know I can't do that. I'm not allowed to do that. It was just that bad. So we'll be back on Monday. You guys have safe travels back from Dallas.
Will do.
I don't know. You going to sleep or you going out?
Sleep.
All right. That's going to do it. We'll be back again after the South Carolina game, or maybe it'll be a little bit cooler, as the Sooners will welcome the Gamecocks and Shane Beamer into Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium next weekend for a very important game for Oklahoma's future. So that's going to do it. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Eskridge Lexus post-game podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com.